Leadership has always been war in disguise, cloaked in civility, meetings, and polite handshakes. The battlefield is not always drenched in blood, but it is always marked by control. You know this instinctively when you are ignored in a room, dismissed in a debate, or betrayed after giving trust. These are not accidents. They are small defeats in the larger war of power. The enemy shows its face early: weakness, naivety, and the illusion that goodness alone earns respect. Power is never handed to you. It is seized. Throughout history, rulers rose not because they were gentle, but because they imposed their will with clarity and strength. The Roman emperors, Renaissance princes, modern statesmen, all understood the same principle. To lead is to dominate perception, dictate direction, and eliminate hesitation. Leadership without the edge of war is theater without weapons, a crown without a sword. Look at today's leaders, CEOs, politicians, generals. The ones who rise are not those who smile the most, but those who remain unmoved when storms rage around them. They cut unnecessary ties without guilt. They make unpopular decisions without flinching. They weaponize psychology to keep control of the room. Watch a skilled executive in a negotiation. He speaks less, observes more, and lets silence pressure the other side into error. This is calculated ruthlessness, not cruelty. It is the discipline to act when others hesitate. The cost of ignoring this truth is heavy. If you fail to master leadership psychology, you become the pawn on someone else's board. You may believe you are free, but your time, attention, and energy are pulled like a marionette by stronger hands. The world does not stop moving when you refuse to seize power. It simply moves without you, crushing you under the weight of others' commands. You must train yourself to see every room as a battlefield. Speak less, watch more, and command through presence. When challenged, respond with calm finality instead of defensive chatter. Example: if a colleague undermines you in public, do not argue back, lock eyes, state your stance in one strong sentence, and let silence carry the weight. Weak: I didn't mean it that way, let me explain. Strong: this is my position, and it stands. Leadership begins the moment you discard illusions and see power as war fought daily. Step onto the battlefield prepared, or be erased. Rule or be ruled. The mind is the first throne you must conquer. A man ruled by impulse can command no one, because every decision he makes is a reaction, not an act of sovereignty. Leadership begins not with the crown on your head, but with the crown you forge inside your skull. If you cannot command yourself, the world will sense your fragility and take command for you. Every hesitation, every uncontrolled outburst, every lapse into weakness dethrones you before the battle even begins. History shows this with brutal clarity. The greatest rulers were not only soldiers on the field, but also masters of themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself daily to remain steady, proving that even an emperor needed discipline over his own emotions. Napoleon could stay calm in storms of politics and war, never showing fear to those who wanted him broken. Their strength was not luck. It was deliberate self-command, cultivated like a general sharpening his sword. To lead armies, they first led their own minds. A weak mind dethrones itself. The man who cannot sit in silence without anxiety is chained to his own restless thoughts. The one who cannot resist scrolling endlessly is ruled by the weakest engineers of his attention. He may wear the clothing of authority, but inside, the throne is empty. Leadership without inner control is nothing more than theater, easily exposed when pressure arrives. You must treat your mind as your fortress. Guard what enters. Train it daily. Cut out what corrodes focus. Command your thoughts like a ruler commands soldiers, with order, clarity, and discipline. When doubt rises, do not collapse into it. When fear whispers, confront it and act with resolve. A king who bows to panic is no king at all. Rule your mind, or it will overthrow you. The throne begins within. The day is war, and the morning is your first strike. If you falter at dawn, the empire of hours that follows will rebel against you. A leader who sleeps through the first battle of the day loses command before the campaign even begins. Military history proves this truth. Armies have always treated the morning as sacred ground. Generals struck at dawn because it shattered the enemy's comfort, forced them into chaos, and set the tone for the hours ahead. From Roman legions to modern commanders, the principle remains: control the morning, and you tilt the battlefield in your favor. Your life follows the same pattern. The morning is not just another time of day. It is a fortress you either defend or surrender. If you begin with discipline, you seize momentum. If you stumble into distraction, you hand over your sovereignty before the sun is high. Morning rituals are not cliches, they are weapons. Exercise is not vanity, it sharpens your body as armor. Stillness is not laziness, it is reconnaissance before battle, allowing you to survey your mind and direct your troops of thought. Planning is not busy work, it is the map and compass for the campaign of your day. Leaders do not improvise the opening strike. They prepare, they direct, they dictate. In modern offices, this truth is visible. The leader who arrives sharp, focused, and intentionally radiates command, while those who rush distracted look like soldiers scattered without orders. The executive who begins with reflection and priority setting moves like a general with a war plan. Others spend the morning reacting, answering messages, and drowning in noise, but the disciplined leader uses silence as a sword and structure as a shield. This is not about perfection, it is about declaring war on drift. You either dictate the flow or you drown in it. Consider the cost of surrendering your morning. Each wasted dawn is like lowering your fortress gates to the enemy. You may believe you can recover later, but momentum once lost is rarely regained. The mind senses defeat. The body follows in weakness. The hours rebel. A leader who begins weak rarely ends strong. Even your private sense of authority erodes, because you know you abandoned the first duty of command. The throne of the day collapses before noon. So win the first battle, rise early, sharpen the body, command silence. Plan with precision. Defend the gates of your morning as if an army were marching toward you, because one is the chaos of life. Take the first strike, and the empire of hours will kneel. Own the morning, rule the day. Stillness is not weakness. It is a weapon sharpened through restraint, a dagger concealed until the precise moment of use. Machiavelli observed that a ruler who speaks little and listens much holds greater command, because words reveal vulnerabilities while silence reveals nothing. The leader who controls his tongue commands the battlefield of perception. Every word withheld is a shield, every pause is a sword. Throughout history, rulers and generals used silence as a form of control. They understood that the less they spoke, the more their presence weighed on others. A king who reveals nothing through chatter forces his court into speculation. The general who listens to his advisors without interruption learns more than the one who tries to dominate the room with endless speech. In politics and war, silence has often been the mark of those who truly lead. To remain still when others demand reaction is to declare that you move only when you decide, not when provoked. In modern life, the same truth plays out daily. Step into any meeting and watch carefully. The person who speaks the least often holds the most power. Their silence creates tension. Others fill the void with nervous explanations, overcommitments, and careless promises. Meanwhile, the quiet leader watches, collects information, and strikes with one decisive sentence. Weak. I think maybe we should consider this if it's okay with everyone. Strong. This is the course, and it stands. One is drowned in noise, the other commands through stillness. Stillness is the ambush before the kill. Predators know it instinctively. The lion waits in the tall grass, conserving energy until the moment to pounce. The hawk hovers motionless in the sky before diving with precision. You must learn the same discipline in leadership. Resist the urge to always respond. Always explain. Always reveal your strategy. Stillness makes your eventual move sharper, more impactful, impossible to ignore. Imagine being confronted in a tense discussion. Others may raise their voices, rushing to force you into reaction. Do not rise with them. Hold your calm. Let silence stretch. Then deliver one controlled statement that settles the matter. The room feels the difference between noise and command. Power is not in how much you speak, but in how unshakable you remain while others lose themselves. So weaponize stillness. Guard your words. Use silence as tension, not retreat. Move only with intent, and let patience sharpen your strike. Speak less, command more. Leadership demands ruthless elimination. You cannot command with strength if you are chained by weak ties, endless distractions, or the weight of sentiment. A throne cannot be carried on broken foundations. To preserve sovereignty, you must learn to cut decisively, as generals and rulers have done throughout history. The greatest leaders understood that alliances built on weakness were liabilities. Roman emperors often severed bonds with unreliable allies, the moment those ties threatened stability. Renaissance princes, admired by Machiavelli, were praised not for sentiment, but for their ability to discard relationships that endangered their survival. To hesitate was to invite ruin. This lesson applies directly to your life. Authority collapses when you surround yourself with distractions and noise. Modern leaders lose battles not to invading armies, but to the silent erosion of their focus. Every wasted hour online, every meaningless conversation, every demand answered out of guilt is a chain around your sovereignty. You cannot lead effectively if you are pulled in 1,000 directions. True command requires the discipline to cut away what drains you. Eliminate the digital clutter that hijacks your attention. End the relationships that offer nothing but drama and fatigue. Refuse the obligations that weaken your focus and dilute your will. Ruthlessness here is not cruelty, it is clarity. Consider the general who refuses to carry unnecessary baggage into battle. If he allows sentiment to rule, his army marches slower, weighed down by the weak and the unfit. The enemy does not care for his compassion. They only see vulnerability, and they strike where he is burdened. The leader who hesitates to discard what weakens him invites defeat before the first clash of steel. In your life, the same principle holds. Carrying emotional baggage, tolerating toxic ties, or clinging to habits that serve no purpose all slow your advance. You may believe you are being loyal or kind, but in truth you are handing your enemies the sword that will cut you down. The cost of failure is enslavement to weakness. The reward of mastery is freedom to move swiftly and strike decisively. You must train yourself to make cuts with cold precision. Protect your energy like a fortress. Guard your time as if it were a crown jewel. Refuse to justify distractions. Refuse to apologize for eliminating what threatens your command. Weak. I'll keep it because I don't want to hurt feelings. Strong. I release it because my mission requires focus. One is ruled by guilt. The other rules with clarity. Elimination is not loss. It is ascension. Each chain removed strengthens your throne. Each distraction destroyed sharpens your sword. Cut without hesitation or be cut down. Leadership is theater, and the mask is your armor. Power is never only about truth. It is about the image you project. If you appear unshakable, people believe you are unshakable. If you appear uncertain, they treat you as weak, even when you are not. The mask you wear commands loyalty, fear, and respect. Without it, you expose your vulnerabilities to enemies eager to exploit them. History shows this principle with absolute clarity. Julius Caesar mastered the art of appearing calm and decisive, even when his situation was fragile. Napoleon was a master of presence, using his uniform, posture, and voice to project authority that bent men to his will. Winston Churchill, in the darkest hours of war, often doubted privately, but never allowed the public to see hesitation. His mask was strength, and through that mask he gave others the courage to endure. Each of these men knew that perception is not decoration, it is command. In modern life, the same law rules. CEOs today understand that their presence in boardrooms and media appearances matters as much as their strategies. Influencers and public figures craft images like armor, knowing that attention follows strength and confidence, not doubt and apology. A leader's social presence, tone, and composure all act as masks. If you walk into a room radiating composure, people adjust their behavior accordingly. If you stumble in with nervous energy, the mask you wear tells others they can ignore or overrule you. Weak. I hope this idea works. Strong. This is the direction, and I stand by it. The mask transforms the same words into power. The mask is not deceit. It is discipline. It hides weakness that would erode your command and projects stability that secures loyalty. Even the strongest leaders have doubts, but they do not hand those doubts to the crowd. They carry them privately, and when they step into the arena, they present only the face of strength. Imagine a general walking before his army with fear on his face. The soldiers see it and break, but if he walks with calm eyes and steady voice, the mask steadies their courage even if his heart trembles. You must craft your mask with intent. Choose your posture, your tone, your appearance, and your words carefully. Protect your doubts by keeping them inside your fortress. Present only what strengthens your authority. This is not falsehood, it is leadership. The mask does not make you less authentic, it makes you effective. Power is perception, and perception shapes reality. Wear the mask, command the crowd. Leadership is not only about building, it is about cutting. The ruler who cannot strike when the moment demands it is soon overthrown. Machiavelli praised calculated cruelty, not for its brutality, but for its effectiveness. He pointed to Cesare Borgia, who secured his rule in unstable territories through decisive strikes. Borgia acted quickly against rivals, removing threats before they could organize. His cruelty was not random. It was deliberate, timed, and strategic. He understood that hesitation in power is often deadlier than the sword itself. This principle applies far beyond the courts of Renaissance Italy. In modern leadership, you face the same demand for cold clarity. Sometimes you must end an employee's role, not because you wish to, but because keeping them weakens the whole structure. Sometimes you must walk away from a negotiation, cutting ties rather than allowing the other side to dictate terms. Sometimes you must step out of relationships that drag you down, however much sentiment urges you to stay. These are not acts of malice, they are acts of survival. A leader who refuses to cut when necessary ends up cut down by those he could not let go. Inside you, there must be an inner assassin. This assassin is not about violence. It is about the ability to kill hesitation before hesitation kills you. It is the voice that demands action when your softer instincts would delay. It is the cold edge that keeps you from drowning in excuses. You must summon this part of yourself when the stakes are high, when delay means decay. A commander cannot ask his troops to march if he himself is chained by indecision. You cannot project strength if you are constantly debating whether to act. Imagine being challenged in a room where your authority is tested. Someone undermines your decision publicly, hoping to corner you into backpedaling. Weak. Maybe you're right, we can adjust. Strong. I hear your concern, but the direction stands. One response feeds weakness. The other ends the challenge cleanly. The assassin within you chooses the strike, cuts hesitation, and secures the throne of perception. The cost of lacking this discipline is high. You become predictable, slow, and vulnerable. Enemies gather, sensing your reluctance, and your authority evaporates. But when you act with precision, striking only when necessary, your presence becomes untouchable. People trust leaders who decide firmly, even when they do not agree, because firmness signals command. You must cultivate the assassin's clarity. Act decisively. Cut weakness. End delays. Remove what endangers your sovereignty. Strike without hesitation, or be struck down. Leadership is sustained by hunger. Without the wolf inside, the throne rots from within. The history of great rulers makes this truth impossible to ignore. Alexander did not stop after conquering one land. His ambition drove him across continents, unwilling to rest until his empire touched the edges of the known world. Genghis Khan rose from obscurity to command vast territories, fueled not by comfort but by a relentless appetite for expansion. Their victories were not accidents. They were the product of inner wolves that demanded more, pushed harder, and refused to be satisfied with survival alone. When the hunger burned, the empire grew. That same law governs you today. Leadership without hunger decays into routine. The wolf must be fed with clear goals and disciplined pursuit. In modern terms, this means setting personal challenges that stretch you beyond comfort. Fitness is not just about health, it is training the body to follow the command of the mind. Building a business or advancing in your career is not only about income, it is about proving that your ambition is alive. Even personal growth, reading, learning, sharpening skills, is food for the wolf. Without it, lethargy creeps in. The leader who stops growing soon stops leading. Your environment constantly tempts you to starve the wolf. Distractions, comforts, and excuses whisper that you have done enough. But once the hunger fades, so does the throne. The empire of your life weakens when you allow the fire to dim. Leaders who abandon ambition drift into irrelevance, remembered for what they once were rather than what they became. The wolf that is unfed turns against you, gnawing at your confidence, eroding your discipline, and leaving you exposed. A throne without hunger is nothing more than a seat for a tired man. You must feed the wolf daily. Challenge yourself with discipline, not indulgence. Seek growth even when you are tempted to coast. Do not allow temporary satisfaction to poison your drive. Weak, I'll rest, I've done enough. Strong, I push further because my mission is not finished. One voice starves the wolf, the other sharpens its teeth. Hunger is not greed, it is the lifeblood of command. The cost of neglecting it is a weakness that spreads through every part of your rule. The reward of nurturing it is sovereignty sustained by energy, clarity, and momentum. Great leaders of the past carried their wolves into every campaign. You must carry yours into every day. Feed it with vision, with discipline, with relentless forward motion. Hunger is the throne's fire. Keep it burning. Life is a chessboard, and leadership is the art of foresight. Every interaction, every word, every alliance is a move. Those who play blindly are captured. Those who see 5 moves ahead secure the throne. History offers ruthless examples. Rulers who anticipated betrayal and positioned themselves accordingly survived where others fell. Machiavelli admired leaders who struck before threats matured, who treated politics as strategy, not sentiment. A king who acted like a pawn was sacrificed quickly. A prince who thought like a chess master ruled longer, because power is preserved not by chance but by calculation. The same logic governs your daily battles. Career, relationships, and politics all unfold like real-world chessboards. A meeting with colleagues is not casual conversation. It is a sequence of moves that determine influence. Friendships and alliances are not random. They are positions that either protect your king or expose your flanks. Negotiations, promotions, even private discussions are contests of foresight. The leader who sees only the present moment is like a pawn staring at the square in front of him. The leader who sees beyond, who predicts reactions, anticipates conflict, and prepares counter-moves, commands the board. Consider a modern workplace. One person rushes to defend themselves when challenged, revealing their position. Another pauses, listens, and delivers a single precise statement that reframes the room. Weak, I didn't mean it that way. Strong, this is my stance and it remains. The first move shows desperation, the second shows control. On the chessboard of perception, the second player holds the power. Leadership is rarely about the loudest voice, it is about the most calculated move. If you play like a pawn, expecting fairness, you will be sacrificed as one. Pawns are expendable because they lack foresight. They march forward blindly, useful only to protect pieces with vision. Do not live like this. Train yourself to think strategically in every domain. Ask not only what you gain now, but what doors this move opens, what risks it creates, and what it signals to others watching. A true leader calculates not one consequence, but several layers ahead. The cost of failing to see the board is severe. You become reactive, tossed around by stronger players who maneuver with intent. The reward of mastery is sovereignty, because the one who sees furthest controls the flow of play. Every empire, every career, every relationship is shaped by the logic of this game. Step onto the board with foresight. Refuse to move like prey. Position yourself like a master. Think 5 moves ahead, or be moved like a pawn. Leadership is not forged in moments of inspiration, but in ritual. Repeated actions temper weakness into steel. Soldiers have always known this. Armies drill not only to learn movements but to carve discipline into the body until obedience to command becomes instinct. Monks in their cloisters built empires of the spirit through ritual prayers, fasting, and silence that hardened their will. Rulers, from emperors to generals, crafted daily routines that reminded them of sovereignty and prepared them to rule under pressure. Ritual is not superstition. It is the forge where iron will is hammered into shape. In your life, the same law applies. Without ritual, you are soft metal, untested and easily bent. With ritual, you become a sword of discipline. Daily habits act as rituals of command. Journaling is not mere writing, it is recording the orders of the day as a general records his campaign. Strategic fasting is not a diet. It is a declaration of control over hunger, a reminder that the body bends to your will. Physical training is not simply exercise, it is the ritual of armor building, proof that you can endure discomfort and emerge sharper. Even silence, practiced intentionally, becomes a ritual of power, an exercise in controlling the tongue when most men waste strength in noise. These are not small acts. They are drills in sovereignty. The danger of ignoring ritual is quiet but fatal. Without it, the sword of will rusts into fragility. You may believe you are strong because you feel motivated, but motivation without ritual collapses when tested. Comfort erodes you slowly until your mind bends at the first sign of resistance. Leaders who live without ritual are like castles without walls. They may stand tall in peace, but at the first attack they fall if you do not sharpen yourself daily. You walk into battle unarmed. Discipline is not built in emergencies. It is built in repetition. This is why armies rise before dawn, why monks chant at the same hour, why rulers wrote decrees at disciplined times. They were not slaves to the clock. They were masters of it. They used ritual to train their minds to move with precision, to withstand pressure without collapse. You must do the same. Create rituals that reinforce authority over yourself. Guard them as sacred. Protect them as if they were fortresses. Weak. I'll do it when I feel like it. Strong. I do it because it is the law of my will. The cost of skipping ritual is a weakness that compounds daily. The reward of keeping it is sovereignty that grows unbreakable. Do not wait for strength to appear. Forge it in repetition. Build your rituals, and they will build your throne. Ritual is the forge. Enter daily, emerge unbreakable. Ritual, the highest form of leadership, is becoming untouchable. This does not mean being free of challenges, but rising to a level where no enemy, no system, and no betrayal can dethrone you. History remembers rulers who reached this state, emperors who cultivated authority so absolute that fear itself lost its grip, kings who prepared for betrayal before it arrived and carried themselves with such an unshakable presence that even rivals hesitated. They were not invincible in body, but they forged an aura that placed them beyond the reach of ordinary attacks. Their strength was rooted in sovereignty, not circumstance. In the modern world, untouchability is not measured by crowns or castles, but by independence across every dimension of life. Financial independence frees you from systems that can command your choices. Mental resilience ensures that no insult, no rejection, and no setback can shake your course. Social autonomy means you are not trapped by the need for constant approval. Together, these qualities create a fortress around your throne. When you rely too heavily on others for money, validation, or direction, you hand them the keys to your rule. But when you fortify these areas, you stand like a citadel on a mountain, visible but unreachable. Presence is part of this armor. Untouchable leaders project a calm authority that silences challenges before they take shape. Think of the way a room shifts when a composed figure enters. Words become fewer, movements slower, because power radiates from posture and tone. Weak. I hope this plan works. Strong. This is the plan, and it will be executed. Weak language signals fragility. Strong language declares command. Your presence must be sculpted until it carries weight even in silence. People must sense that testing you is futile. Do not confuse untouchability with isolation. It is not hiding behind walls, but standing in the open without fear. A king who withdraws from his people is forgotten. A leader who fears criticism loses the ability to rule. Untouchability is not about avoidance, but about strength. So complete that attempts to wound you become irrelevant. The betrayals that would ruin another man glance off you like arrows against armor. To reach this level, you must build sovereignty piece by piece. Eliminate dependencies. Harden your mind. Strengthen your body. Discipline your speech. Carry yourself as if no blow could break you. When you live this way, you send a message without words. You cannot be moved. You cannot be controlled. You cannot be dethroned. The cost of ignoring this path is clear. You remain vulnerable to every storm, every opinion, every betrayal. The reward of becoming untouchable is absolute freedom. Sovereignty becomes not something you demand, but something others recognize in you instinctively. Be untouchable, and you will rule without fear. Power is not a single act. It is the convergence of discipline, foresight, and ruthlessness fused into a sovereign presence. You began by conquering the throne of your mind, because without mastery over yourself, you could master nothing. You seized the morning as your battlefield, striking first to dictate the empire of hours. You weaponized stillness, turning silence into tension and patience into a dagger. You practiced ruthless elimination, cutting distractions and weak ties that corroded your sovereignty. You wore the mask of command, crafting perception as armor. You summoned the inner assassin, killing hesitation before it killed you. You fed the wolf of ambition, keeping your hunger alive. You treated life as a chessboard, planning moves ahead of your enemies. You forged your iron will through ritual, shaping discipline into unbreakable steel. And you pursued the final state of leadership, becoming untouchable, so absolute in sovereignty that betrayal and attack glance off you like arrows against armor. But the reward of mastery is sovereignty. The leader who unites all these principles commands respect without begging for it. His presence alone bends the atmosphere of the room. He is feared not for cruelty but for clarity, respected not for titles but for the aura of strength. His rituals sharpen his will daily. His silence unsettles rivals. His foresight protects him from traps. His wolf of ambition keeps him moving forward, while others settle into decay. His mask ensures his authority is never doubted, and his assassin's clarity allows him to strike without hesitation. When all converge, he becomes more than a man reacting to circumstances. He becomes the sovereign who dictates them. This transformation is not hypothetical. You can see it in the modern world. The individual who builds financial independence is no longer enslaved by a system that dictates every choice. The one who maintains mental resilience cannot be broken by insults or setbacks. The leader who eliminates weakness and controls his environment creates an aura of autonomy that others instinctively respect. People follow him because he projects stability in a world of chaos. Even in private disagreements, his calm control silences opposition. He does not argue, he declares, weak. Maybe we can try this if it works for everyone. Strong. This is the direction, and it stands. One move signals uncertainty, the other command. The convergence of these laws creates a sovereign predator. He rules through silence, foresight, and ruthlessness, not noise, chance, or sentiment. Like a hawk circling above the battlefield, he sees further than others, waits longer than others, and strikes sharper than others. The cost of ignoring these principles is slavery to weakness. The reward of embodying them is sovereignty that outlives circumstance. History remembers leaders not for their intentions, but for their command. Your life will be no different. If you fail to rule yourself, you will be ruled. If you seize command, you will shape your world. This is the ruthless psychology of leadership. Power converges in the one who sees further, cuts deeper, and stands unshakable. Rule yourself, or be ruled forever. Leadership is not kindness, it is sovereignty. If you refuse to master it, you are reduced to pawn and prey, ruled by the will of others. History is full of forgotten men who could not command themselves, and so they were commanded. They drifted into irrelevance, enslaved not by chains, but by weakness, silenced not by enemies, but by their own lack of discipline. The final warning is clear. A man who does not rule his impulses, his mornings, his silence, and his hunger cannot rule anything at all. He is sacrificed early on the chessboard of life, useful only to advance another player's power. The reward belongs to the sovereign who begins within. By mastering himself, he builds a fortress no betrayal can penetrate. His discipline in ritual, his control of silence, his hunger that never fades, all combine into authority that others cannot shake. In modern times, this is seen in the leader who creates financial independence, builds resilience, and moves with clarity instead of apology. People trust him not because he is flawless, but because he is steady, untouchable in the storms of life. His presence calms allies and unsettles rivals. He does not plead for respect. He draws it by being the one who commands himself first. This is where all lessons converge. Leadership is not granted by title, position, or applause. It is seized by those who dare to rule themselves with ruthless clarity. If you hesitate, you are ruled. If you master yourself, you command not just others, but the world itself. The final call to action is uncompromising. Stop playing as a pawn, stop living as prey, and take the throne within your own mind. Rule yourself, command the world, lead with ruthless sovereignty.